Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart. Happy Sunday to you all, or whatever day you end up watching this video, happy day to you. Today what I want to talk about is Nintendo's mysterious plan regarding this upcoming February. The reason why I'm referring to it as a mysterious plan is because we don't know what it is, and it is strange. Why is it strange? Because we are in the middle of November, and Nintendo has yet to have announced their plans regarding any sort of published games from them in February. And typically, by this point in the year, we know about the games that will be coming out in the first few months of Nintendo's next calendar year, those first 3 months really. And so it usually works out that we know about the games coming out during this period of time. As we approach a Nintendo Direct, we start to get a little bit more news on these games that are releasing during this period, and then that Nintendo Direct during that part of the year essentially details, for the most part, the games coming out for the next few months before we get to that next time where they need to give us a Direct. And then sometimes, depending on the circumstances, Nintendo shall drop certain things or make random announcements on social media, which they've been doing a lot lately this year. You look at Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club, you look at the release dates we got for Luigi's Mansion 2 HD and also Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. Those were provided to us on a Sunday for Mario Day. And we even take a look at the recently announced Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition for this upcoming March. And so the method in which we've gotten announcements this year has been a little bit out of the ordinary. We assume a lot of this has to do with the transition over to Switch 2. But there are a variety of possibilities, many of which make a great deal of sense to happen in February. So it definitely has many wondering, myself included, what exactly is Nintendo planning for this month in 2025? And that's what I want to really dive into today. Now, before going forward, let me briefly take this moment to ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you're unsure of that, please stick through the entire video, and if you've enjoyed the video, to then consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. So yes, this upcoming February, there is a possibility that there will simply be no games coming out from Nintendo then. But even if there aren't any games, there's still likely going to be something, maybe a partner showcase, some kind of Nintendo Direct, perhaps a reveal for a next generation console. There is a variety of possibilities. But when we take a look at the various Februaries throughout the Switch generation, February has been pretty consistent in terms of some sort of Nintendo published game releasing. Taking a look at 2018 first, we saw the release for Dragon Quest Builders and also Bayonetta's 1 and 2. These were published titles that were released during this period. And what's interesting about Bayonetta's 1 and 2 is that those games were not announced until 2 months prior to release. They were announced actually alongside the Bayonetta 3 announcement at the Game Awards for December 2017. And so with this situation in mind, perhaps we could be seeing a similar thing happen here where we enter the Game Awards and they make an announcement for February at the Game Awards. And so that has me wondering, what kind of game could come out in February that might be announced at the Game Awards? Well, recently I discussed a possibility, and I think it's actually a pretty decent one, that we might see Metroid news at the Game Awards. And I go into detail why I think it makes sense in that video, so if you want, check that video after this one. But I also bring up the possibility that not only might we see Metroid Prime 4 Beyond in some shape or form at the Game Awards, they may also want to bring up Metroid Prime 2 and even possibly Metroid Prime 3 as well. Very similar to how they showed off Bayonetta 3 at the Game Awards back in 2017 and then also announced Bayonetta's 1 and 2 to release soon after. So maybe Nintendo is saving Metroid Primes 2 and maybe also 3 for February. But that is just one possibility. Moving on to the next year in the Switch generation that had a February, 2019. What we saw release was Tetris 99. Now, Tetris 99 is a Nintendo Switch online game. It's not a full-on physical release, but it's a pretty significant game that people have been playing even to this day, myself included. And so it has me wondering, could we maybe see something like that this time around? Let's remind ourselves that we just got the playtest program of a massive multiplayer online game from Nintendo. Nintendo's been extremely secretive about this project, and the playtest program has only lasted a couple weeks, and only 10,000 people were able to get in. Very few have actually gotten a chance to play this. When might this come out? When might we see this see the light of day? They're playtesting this for a reason. Some people have argued that maybe this is an incomplete game, that maybe this is just more of like a proof of concept and there's going to be an actual full-on game that these technologies will take part in later down the road. And I think there could be something to that idea. I do think we see crossover with different ideas and technologies with different Nintendo games, but I also believe that what was being playtested will be an actual game that Switch Online members will actually play. I can't show any screenshots because Nintendo will take down the video, but we did see evidence of eShop or microtransactions in the game, essentially meaning that yes, this is intended to be an actual game that people will play and be able to make additional purchases while experiencing the game. So I do think this is going to come out, and perhaps it could be something that Nintendo will release for Switch Online members this February, similar to what happened with Tetris 99 in 2019. But let's now move on to 2020, because 2020 is interesting, because we didn't see any Nintendo published title in February. However, this year does deserve an asterisk because this was also the pandemic year. There wasn't a single normal General Direct in the year of 2020. We just had partner showcases and the Mario Anniversary Direct. But what I will say is that during this period of time, we did see the release of Tokyo Mirage Sessions January 17th, and then we saw the release of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon on March 6th. So not even a week after February completed, we saw a Nintendo published title, and then just a few weeks later, we saw the release for Animal Crossing New Horizons. And so the takeaway I have from this period of time is that while there may not necessarily be a game that comes out within a specific month, Nintendo's still going to ultimately average at least one game per month throughout the year. When looking at every single year, I counted this before recording here, there are years where there's only 1 month that is skipped. There are some years where 2 months are skipped, and there are others where there are 3 months that are skipped. But in those years where there are 3 or 2 months skipped, we will see multiple months with multiple Nintendo published titles. So ultimately, Nintendo will make up for this, and if there isn't going to be a February game, then it might imply that there's going to be another January game or another March game. So still something should happen relatively soon around that period of time, most likely, at least based off how things have happened throughout the Switch generation. Taking a look at 2021, we saw the releases for Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury and Bravely Default 2. And the only thing I'll say about this one is that there were 2 Nintendo published titles in February. There could potentially be more than one game announced for February. So what if we were to see Metroid Prime 2 Remastered announced at the Game Awards to come out this next February, and also Nintendo does shadow drop the Switch Online MMO game during a Nintendo Direct in February as well. Both things could happen, and we might be in for more than expected, even though currently looks like there's going to be nothing. Now moving on to 2022, this is the second time throughout the entire Switch generation that Nintendo did not have a February release. However, a huge game, Pokemon Legends Arceus, released January 28th, just a few short days before the beginning of February. And then just a few short days after February, on March 4th, there was also Triangle Strategy. And let me also add that later in March we saw Kirby's Forgotten Land, another huge game from Nintendo. And so I think this also helps to strengthen the point that even if there's not a February game, like 2020, there should still be at least one more game during that period of time, which we have yet to see an announcement for. In 2023, we saw Metroid Prime Remastered and Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, 2 different remasters in that month. And I guess what's interesting about this is that that might also be a possibility for February. Now sure, we already have a remaster announced for January in Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, and also another remaster in Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition for March. But given that we are going through this transition from Switch 1 to Switch 2, we are expecting a lot more remasters. I already talked about the possibility of Metroid Primes 2 and 3, but there's another that's been in great discussion as of late, and that's The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. There's already a dedicated video I've had on this particular subject, so if you're interested in this one, you can check that one out as well. But there is a retail listing of Wind Waker HD right now from a site that has a history of putting listings out before official announcements, although it is hit or miss, sometimes nothing has happened. But then on top of that, Pyoro seems to have been hinting at one more interesting announcement from Nintendo that has yet to have been announced, at least up to this point, and it seems to be something wavy or watery, perhaps like the Great Seas from the Wind Waker. So that's just another consideration to be had there. And then this year in 2024, we had the remake of Mario vs. Donkey Kong. And so, of the last 7 years, 5 of those 7 years, there was a Nintendo published title. And in the 2 years where there was not a Nintendo published title for February, in the first 3 months of the calendar year, there was still at least 3 or 4 if you count smaller titles published in the beginning of the year, ultimately making up for the lack of a February game. So essentially, looking at the entire history of Nintendo Switch, we should be expecting at least one more Nintendo published title during this period of time. And so where do we see this announcement? As I mentioned earlier, maybe it's at the Game Awards. Or maybe it's a Shadow Drop release in a Nintendo Direct of some kind in February, in a partner showcase maybe. I think that's certainly possible. And as I also mentioned earlier, perhaps both could happen. Perhaps there could be more than one game that comes out during this period of time. And even if there's not some kind of game that comes out in February, although I'll say it seems fairly likely, there could still be some kind of major Nintendo presentation. If there's some kind of Nintendo Direct, I do think there could be Shadow Drops, but if it's just a partner showcase, then maybe there wouldn't be any Nintendo published Shadow Drops. But there still could be some significant news for Nintendo fans during this period of time. But another big possibility is the reveal for the Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo has told us that there will be an announcement before the end of the fiscal year, which ends on March 31st, 2025. And they've already told us that the announcements via Twitter aren't those announcements. So whatever announcement they've been referring to, it's something much bigger than just announcing backwards compatibility or the existence of the console. And so it seems very likely that we're going to get some kind of presentation, be it a direct, some sort of live conference, or a trailer for the Switch 2. And currently people don't think it's going to happen in this calendar year. It's not impossible, but it does seem very unlikely at this point. Which really leaves us basically like the second half of January, February, or March to see the reveal for this console. And if we already have published Nintendo titles for January and March, perhaps we should be keeping our eyes peeled for February, where there currently is nothing announced. It's totally vacant. So Nintendo is likely to do something during this period of time, and maybe it's the Switch 2 reveal. Lately, I've been kind of leaning towards a second half of January reveal, just because I'm expecting there to be a Nintendo Direct partner showcase in February, but maybe Nintendo switches those around. Maybe there's a partner showcase in January and Nintendo Switch 2 reveal in February. Or maybe both can happen the same month. Why can't there be both? So clearly, there is a variety of possibilities, and as I've talked about throughout this video, history shows that there likely is going to be some kind of news about something to happen during that period of the year. Even if it isn't exactly February, late January, early March, something likely seems to be happening during that time beyond just Donkey Kong Country Returns and Xenoblade X. And no, I'm not just saying just a basic direct. I think there will be a little bit more than that. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.